the Sigma 10-20mm. It's been out for well over 10 years now and offered photographers across the globe a great deal, offering an ultra-wide angle on the crop body sensor cameras. When Sigma released this lens back in February 2005, it was made to rival Canon's 10-22mm that came out the previous year. So with the main difference in double the price and 2mm of extra angle from Canon, how does Sigma compare? Well, for starters, the 10-20 is built superbly with its fantastic steady feel and overall solid design. And while being made of a plastic that only Asians know the name of, the lens actually gives you a reassuring feel that makes you think it won't actually break in your hands while using it. That includes the focus switch on the side. When you switch it from manual to autofocus, you get a very positive click. A great plus for this lens is the zoom ring and focus ring. They both feel absolutely great, but out of the two, the focus ring feels slightly better. And on the matter of focusing, this lens has a really quick focusing speed, and with a hypersonic motor on board, it's pretty damn quiet too. The Sigma lens has internal focusing with a closest-in focusing distance of 24cm. So although the lens is very solid overall, the 10-20 does weigh a bit. At a little under 500 grams, the lens feels like you carry around a very big dense potato or half a brick with the potential to be used to beat the absolute shit out of a politician and then use the lens afterwards to take a picture of your victim. And on the matter of beating things up, if you do take this lens out in the rain, then do expect to beat yourself up after you realise this lens isn't weather sealed and you've broke it.
This lens will currently set you back about £250 to £300 for either a great used lens or a cheap new one, which if you've done your research and shopping around, then you'll know you can buy Canon's new 10-18mm brand new for about £200. Just saying. But the question is, why would you pay £300 for this lens? Well, to find out, let's have a look at a couple of stats first. The Sigma lens has a maximum aperture of f4 and a minimum of f8.2. It comes with 6 rounded aperture blades for some pretty round bokeh. It's built with 14 elements in 10 groups. That comes with 3 SLD elements, 2 hybrid Apsherical elements and 1 glass mould element.
So with those boring stats out the way, let's have a look at the lens itself.
As you can see, this is a chunky stubby lens. It has a metal mount on it. It shows a zoom distance on the ring and a focusing window above that. There is a slightly pointy switch on the side for alternating between manual and autofocus. And other than seeing the text that says what the lens is, then that's it for the exterior.
So what cons does this lens have? Well, the first one being the filter thread. The filter thread on this lens is a rather whopping 77mm. Now, this isn't the worst thing in the world, although it does mean if you really want a good filter on here, then you're going to have to pay some top dollar. A second con for this lens is that it doesn't have IS. Now, if you're particularly bothered by this, then maybe this lens isn't for you. But on a positive note to that, because this is an ultra wide angle lens, it means that you really don't need IS for many of the shots you take. Unless you decide to go do long exposure shots, then you'd be pretty fucked. A third con is that lens flare can be a real bitch on this lens at certain angles. A fourth con to this lens is quite a common fault of any ultra wide angle lens, and that is that there are soft corners on the images. Now, to prevent this, you need to stop the lens down to about f8. Now on this lens in particular, f8 is the peak performance for the lens images. And not to mention the barrel distortion, which is yet again a common fault.
So what's the verdict on the Sigma lens? Well, I actually think this is a great lens and I have used this lens quite a lot. I've used it for landscapes, urban shots, people shots, motor vehicle shots and a few more to be honest. I think that in the real world this lens is really quite the little beast. It shows some spectacular images showing good colour rendition and overall focus. But if I was to recommend this lens to someone to buy, I'd also say to them, take a look at Canon's new 10-18mm, which although you don't get the same build quality, you do get IS which might tempt you. But even without IS, I think this lens is a really good buy for any photographer on a rather small budget, or a fairly small budget at least. And besides, this lens has a shiny gold ring, and who doesn't love a shiny gold ring? So all in all, this lens being 10 years old now, I still think it's a great contender to be part of anyone's photography bag if you're looking for an ultra wide angle. This lens is actually part of my bag, and that's why it's one of the reasons I would recommend it to you.
Lying bastard.